Good afternoon, good morning to everyone. We would like to thank Topra for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Katarina Kresankova, and I'm here today with my colleague Dean Halliday, and we both work at Schlafen de Hase, the creator of TVT text verification tool. And today we would like to speak to you about a topic that is important both to you and to us. Whether you work in regulatory affairs or quality, we all understand that labeling artwork is more than just a design. It's a critical compliance and safety tool. A mistake in a leaflet or outer packaging can very often mean a difference between safe use of product and product recall. It can disrupt supply chains, damage trust of patients, and also carry serious regulatory consequences. And yet, this mistake often results from preventable issues such as miscommunication, outdated files, or human error.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. So today, what we want to do is walk you through a comprehensive guide to reducing packaging artwork errors with a particular focus on the vital role that you, the regulatory affairs teams, play in error prevention. And to touch on how we've assisted and supported the RA teams globally for over 25 years. Now, we aim to cover the most common pitfalls and where they originate, some proven best practices to avoid those pitfalls, how tools like automated proofreading can transform accuracy and efficiency, and at the end of the session, provide a short demonstration of TVT, the automated proofreading tool. So without further ado, let's dive in.
Thank you, Dean. So let's have a look at the first topic, the most common pitfalls in artwork creation process. So before we start, how important is labeling artwork? Well, labeling artwork is a critical interface between regulatory approval, product availability, and patient safety. It translates complex regulatory requirements, product information, and legal obligations into clear communication for healthcare professionals and also patients. It ensures that essential product information such as warning or dosages are accurately communicated to patients and healthcare professionals, and this way it is directly impacting the safety of the product. Because of this, even smallest mistake in labeling artwork can have serious consequences. Mislabeling can trigger recalls that are resulting in loss of revenue and resource-intensive corrective actions. Mistakes, which are detected later in the printing stage of the process, can delay product release and also affect patients' access to essential medicines. Non-compliance with local, regional, or global labeling regulations may lead to fines or warnings. And last but not least, mistakes in labeling can undermine trust with patients and also affect companies' credibility.
Sadly, this is all too true. So for regulatory affairs professionals, the responsibility goes beyond just mere compliance. RA teams act as the guardians of accurate and safe and effective communication through to the end of the packaging process, ensuring that products meet both regulatory requirements and marketing expectations. So preventing errors requires a proactive, structured approach, which include establishing clear artwork and labeling guidelines. Now, these provide standardized instructions and templates to minimize any gray areas and inconsistencies. You need to drive cross-functional collaboration among regulatory, marketing, quality and supply chain teams to align objectives and reduce errors from miscommunication or those siloed processes. You need to implement a robust review and approval process and version control to ensure every change is tracked, authorized, and verified before production. You need to leverage technology and automated tools for text verification, barcode validation, regulatory compliance checks, all reducing the risk of human error. And you're acting as a custodian of labeling accuracy. You're monitoring regulatory updates, and you're bridging the global requirements within the local markets to maintain that 100% compliance requirement. This guide will provide some of the best practices and insights into the critical role of the regulatory affairs teams and the practical steps to minimize packaging artwork errors. By implementing just some of these strategies, organizations can protect patients, safeguard regulatory compliance, and maintain business continuity, whilst fostering a culture of accuracy, accountability, and continuous improvement.
Thank you, Dean. So what are the most common pitfalls in artwork creation process actually? So first of them might be regulation misinterpretation. Regulatory texts are often written in a very complex and technical language, which can leave space for misinterpretation when these are converted into practical artwork instructions. For example, a vague instruction on allergen labeling can result in inaccurate information on the packaging. Also, product may be approved for multiple markets, and each of these markets have their own requirements. And if these are overlooked or misunderstood, the final packaging might be non-compliant, which again may lead to recalls and delays.
Yeah, and again, sadly, this is something that we see an uptick on this year in 2025. Another issue could be version control issues for multiple teams working with, possible outdated drafts. Imagine artwork teams, regulatory teams, or suppliers referencing old versions of labeling text or documents. Inconsistencies can creep into the final document. Now, this can often occur when files are shared over email rather than in a controlled and centralized system, such as an artwork management system. Also, a lack of clear approval workflows can hinder yourselves. Without a structured process for routing, reviewing, and signing off, conflicting edits can occur. The absence of a digital audit trails can make it difficult to track who has approved what, raising compliance issues and causing possible bottlenecks.
Yeah. Another challenges might be connected with language or translation mistakes. Medical terms or patient instructions can often be mistranslated, which can lead to confusion of patients, and also it can potentially harm the patient. Also, different languages, they have different structure, different word length. So this may impact the space that is, for example, available on the packaging. And bad formatting can result in overlapping text, misaligned symbols, or introduction of unwanted hyphenated words in your documents. Another issue might be related to design. Regulatory agencies often require minimum font size or specific barcode symbologies, and non-compliance with these requirements can result in readability failures for patients or scanning issues at supply chain level. Also, addition of QR code or serial numbers or multiple languages can make the label or the packaging crowded, and this can make it harder to read for patients, especially when we speak about elderly patients or visually impaired patients.
Particularly people like myself. Best practices and to reducing errors and some tips to building a robust review process. I think one of the first steps, and I touched on this before, was to have a centralized, accessible system, an artwork management system or a data management system. And this is there to maintain a single validated source where approved labeling texts, artwork templates are stored and can be drawn from. Now, this reduces the risk of outdated or incorrect versions being used in the packaging development, And this is crucial to success. Next, you have to have your country-specific requirements. Create a structured database that outlines regulatory requirements for each market. This might cover the language requirements, the font size, the warning symbols, serialization standards, and QRs codes, as Katerina mentioned. This helps teams to adapt these global artworks to local markets without missing compliance details and causing possible major reworks. Also using a standardized template. So you can use or create a pre-approved or approved artwork template with locked, non-editable elements, logos, warning boxes, dosage panels to ensure consistency and compliance across all stages.
Yeah, these are really good tips. Another one that we would like to give you is to strengthen collaboration between teams. This means that you can involve the regulatory team, marketing team, quality assurance team early in the planning stage to avoid last-minute changes, which can introduce new mistakes. You can also hold structured artwork review meetings with all involved stakeholders to align on expectations, validate content, and resolve discrepancies early.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, some of the best practices would be to, as Katerina said, hold a structured review sessions, whether it would be weekly, bi-weekly or monthly, especially at the concept stage, the first proof stage and pre-submission. And next, we would recommend to use, again, the shared platforms to annotate and track changes in real time. And also to assign a project coordinator. Now, usually from this would be from regulatory or for packaging to one, facilitate meetings, two, open track open issues, and again, to escalate any bottlenecks. Another great step to take is have clear accountability. This is one thing that we see missing. Having a defined ownership for each stage. Again, an example, regulatory for content accuracy, marketing for branding, and supply chain for print feasibility. This reduces these overlaps and possible confusions. Document and communicate roles and responsibilities for each functional area. Another step would be to implement gated stages for approvals with e-signatures to lock approved content.
Yeah. Additionally, you can also use checklists that are dedicated for each department. For example, for regulatory affairs department, the checklist may contain points like, is the text according to latest regulations? Are warning, dosage, and storage instructions accurate? Or are local language translations validated? For marketing department, you may need to check if the logo is correct or the branding overall and up to date, or if the layout and the font is consistent throughout the whole artwork. For quality department, the checklist may contain points like, are mandatory labeling elements present, or does the artwork comply with good manufacturing practice standards?
Again, all good points. So the next thing is really on our whistle stop tour is to implement a robust version control system. Now, I briefly touched on this earlier. With an electronic document management system or artwork management system, you can implement this and have version history, audit trails, and access controls to ensure transparency and traceability at all stages. Now, the key features and benefits of this is, well, first, the version history. It maintains a complete history of every change made to a file. So what was changed, when, by whom, and why. The second is using audit trails. Now, these automatically log user actions, supporting internal audits and regulatory inspections, leaving no grey areas. The third is access controls. These ensure only authorized personnel can view or edit specific files, reducing again that unwanted risk of unauthorized or accidental modification or documentation changes in artworks.
Yeah. They also ensure safer communication and file sharing between internal teams, but also external vendors. And this is important because without these management systems, teams often rely on email, shared folders, or even local files. And this can lead to miscommunication. The teams can be working on incorrect and outdated files, which again leads to higher risk of non-compliance. Additional benefit is that these management systems, they serve as a single source of truth, which means that all departments are working on the same and up-to-date file, which again improves accuracy, saves time, and supports compliance with industry regulations.
Yeah, so a major benefit is the reduction of the risk of a parallel file being developed. Again, an example, someone updating version 1.2 while another team is using version 1.1. Sadly, seen all too often. A centralized system also ensures that you've got alignment across all geographies, especially important for global SKUs with multilingual content and differing regulations. And finally, it reduces reworks and delays from version collisions where updates are overwritten or just completely lost. A greatest example would be a packaging designer might accidentally send version 3.1 of a label to the printers, so it's getting printed, while regulatory has already approved version 3.2. Again, this central system prevents this by flagging the outdated file being used or restricting access to it altogether.
Yeah, that's why another tip would be to establish change control process with strict rules for implementing and requesting changes with documented justifications and approvals. This is important because labeling changes have often cross-functional impact. For example, a minor change in an artwork can require updated translations or reapproval by health authorities. And that's why making even a smallest change in labeling artwork without notifying the regulatory team can result into mismatch between the approved document and the final artwork.
Yeah, absolutely. A fourth step is, well, you need to review, enhance the proofreading processes and possibly leverage technology and automation, which nicely leads us on to the next point in our webinar. How tools like automated proofreading can transform accuracy and efficiency.
Yes, thank you, Dean. So let's have a look at what is the role of regulatory affairs professionals in this whole process. Well, they act as custodians of labeling accuracy. They have to ensure that every information on the label, on the outer packaging, on the leaflet is in accordance with the latest approved data from regulatory submissions. They also have to verify that the contents aligns or agrees with the local regulatory requirements and global standards. So their review helps to reduce the risk of mislabeling. And this is a task that leaves no space of mistake. And that's why it is recommended to leverage automated tools that can help you to review your documents faster and with accuracy that cannot be matched by human eye.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. So text comparison software is where specialized tools are used to compare approved regulatory text with a final artwork. Now, thankfully, this is where our strength lies in this sort of process at this stage. At Schlafenhauser, we have created a tool of an automated proofreading software, TVT, the text verification tool. And this was first used and developed specifically for pharma companies. But now it's used increasingly across many regulated industries. So what does TVT actually do? Well, it automatically compares the approved document, leaflet, label, artwork against the approved content to make sure that they are 100% identical. TVT detects differences in text independently of the language, the layout, whilst performing simultaneous multilingual spell checks, barcode checks, and critical word checks.
Yes, so let's have a look at the benefits a bit closer. So the first one is improved accuracy and precision. So as Dean also mentioned before, the primary benefit of automation in labeling is its unmatched accuracy. Unlike us humans, who can overlook a small difference in documents because of fatigue or distractions, these tools, they don't get tired or distracted. So they can detect even small difference between documents. They highlight them for the user who can then either approve the change or make a comment for correction. An example how TVT can help you is it can detect typographical errors, such as, for example, incorrect product names, but it can also identify missing or edit text. It identifies the smallest difference, like, for example, a missing or misplaced decimal point, which can really mean the difference between a drug being used safely and possibly causing harm. And as we mentioned, undetected deviations in regulatory content can lead to serious consequences, such as potentially harming the patient or having reputational harm on the company.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing is TVT was built to automate this proofreading process, and proofreading systems like TVT has an ability to process large volumes of data incredibly quickly. In environments like pharma, med device, labels or documents need to be reviewed with speed and very high accuracy. Now, this can again reduce possible bottlenecks in your correction cycle by reducing your correction cycle, reducing the risk of delays of time to market, but it also aids with compliance with the varying regulatory standards. As a result, businesses not only uh, improve safety, but also streamline their operations. Now, TVT is built for speed without compromise in accuracy. Teams using TVT reduce review times by hours, even days per asset. We've heard of cases where TVT has saved 1 to 2 days per document during packaging review. Another case where teams of just three have generated over 790 hours of productive output in a single year. And another case where a review was reduced from a typical 8-hour process to just minutes.
Yeah, these are really huge time savings. Also, when it comes to multilingual content, automated proofreading softwares can help you. TBT is highly automated and is built to handle challenges of regulated content in global markets by verifying multilingual documents in one step. And for companies that operate in different countries across different regions, is multilingual verification of documents top priority. And TVT can detect differences independently of the language and characters, including right to left languages, which is making your comparison even faster and, of course, more accurate. And this way, these tools can also contribute to faster expansion to new countries.
So, regulatory compliance and documentation. In the healthcare environment, regulatory compliance is non-negotiable and must be 100% correct without fail. Medical and pharmaceutical products must meet stringent requirements before they're approved for market release. Now, again, these automated proofreading systems have been created to ensure that every label, every leaflet complies with the latest regulations, has the correct content, whether the regulation is from the MHRA, EMA, or other global authorities. Beyond just detecting errors, proofreading software also provides detailed annotated PDF outputs. Well, certainly TVT does, with audit trails documenting each label verification process. This feature is absolutely invaluable in the event of an audit trail or inspection, as it provides irrefutable evidence that every artwork document has gone through each stage correctly, was reviewed, and is compliant with industry standards. These checks are stressful for all teams involved, and sadly, these complex processes are still, at times, done manually, with a document being read by 2-3 people to catch any content issues before they even have to deal with these complex regulatory rules that must be adhered to.
Yes, another benefit is cost effectiveness. So, of course, there is initial investment in implementing automated systems, but these, of course, by far outweigh the cost, the long-term benefits. For example, by reducing human error, you are helping to prevent the risk of recalls and reprints, which of course, as we mentioned, can be very expensive, but they can also harm reputation of the company. You are also decreasing the number of correction cycles, which means faster time to market. So overall, these automated proofreading softwares deliver huge financial savings over the time. They
Yeah.
also help to increase overall productivity and improve health and well-being by reducing cognitive load and stress.
Yeah, and that is something that is often lost by people. Reducing cognitive load and stress. But look, manual proofreading requires intense concentration, which can be absolutely mentally exhausting. The less stress and mental fatigue, the better overall well-being. Goes hand in hand. Preventing eye strain, repeatedly scanning documents or labels, leaflets for errors often means long hours of staring at screens or printed products. Automation again shortens these proofreading cycles and sessions, lowering the risks of eye strain and headaches.
Yes. Automation in proofreading also supports neurodiverse and non-native speakers because, for example, people with dyslexia or those writing in second language can often spend time disproportionate effort on proofreading. And these proofreading softwares, they give them the confidence which is backed by data. It also helps to reduce frustrations from repetitive tasks or reduce fear of overlooking a mistake in an important document that can lead over time to or cause anxiety. So these automated softwares, they promote well-being and also give the proofreader peace of mind.
Absolutely, absolutely. So encouraging sort of better communication. Clearer, error-free writing improves workplace communication. Absolutely. Reducing misunderstandings and frustration. Again, it goes hand in hand. Good communication is linked to healthier professional relationships and reduction in workplace tensions. Katerina.
All right. Yes, thank you, Dean. So, to the end of this part, we have some useful tips for you on what to do after the product is released. So, after the product is released, you can hold lessons learned sessions to identify what worked and what didn't work, what caused delays or errors. You can maintain a database of common mistakes and corrective actions that team can reference later in the future. Regulatory affairs professionals can monitor and analyze historical labeling errors, audit findings, and health authority feedback to refine its review criteria. And by learning from the past, you can improve overall efficiency. You can also provide refresher training for new, but also for existing employees, focusing on regulatory updates, new tools, and real-life case studies. And last but not least, you can track artwork-related deviations, approval timelines, and errors rates to measure progress and identify systemic gaps. And now it's time for demo. So back to you, Dean.
Thank you, Katerina. So hopefully now everybody can see my screen has
Yes.
changed up, and you can see TVT screen for the first time. Now, TVT was built with the user in mind. So we have a very clear user interface with what we have, the 6 easy steps to success. So we'll go through a brief introduction to TVT, and we'll show you some of the features in the next sort of 15 minutes or so. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a brand new project, and I'm going to add 2 files to this project. Now, one of the benefits of TVT is it is not just Word to PDF or PDF to PDF. We can mix and match our file types as we wish, dealing with Fire files, XML files, PDFs, Adobe Illustrator files. We can absolutely deal with as many files as you wish. So once we've loaded the 2 files into TVT, what we need to do next is actually load our choose our project setting. Now, again, TVT supports many areas for regulatory affairs teams, with options to review cartons using the QRD templates, review large documents, review documents with complex languages, so that's right to left reading text, and just standard documents as well. So here's a typical set of documents we're going to look at, which I'm sure some of the RA teams will have seen before. So I'm going to open TVT up, and the system asks me if I want to detect any images. So you may have to approve certain images that are embedded in your system. TVT also comes with an automated proofreading system also as an addition. So we're just going to detect any images that we have now. So the first thing that TVT is going to do is it's going to load the 2 files in, and it highlights any text that it can see, so it can work with. So anything that is highlighted in orange at this point, again, so the user can see what TVT is going to compare, is shown now. So we move to our next stage, and this is our prepare stage. And again, at this point, we can add any created templates, add exclusion areas to exclude information from the comparison, add document dividers, divide up large documents, place table areas to help TVT compare table document when they're flowed in different orders, in different ways, capture any image areas. As I said, we can create full page image pairs. We can look at barcodes. Again, we have a barcode module which can be added. This is on my system, so you can actually detect, decode, and grade in ISO and GS1 standard any barcodes. You can also add an exclusion word list, such as the QRD template, and also we can do some proofreading. So we can actually ask the system in our critical word list to look at all numbers, allergens, the formatting of numbers, because it's very different from Europe to the UK and the US. We can ask the system to look at numbers with units, look for repeated words, missing or added trademarks. We can ask TVT to do all this. So I'm going to leave this as standard. So at the moment we have 2,814 words in the original document, which you can see the layout is very different to our artwork. So we couldn't do a graphical comparison. And we have 2,811 words in our artwork side. So I'm rightly told that this would generally take between 30 and 45 minutes to compare. Thankfully, TVT, as we've already discussed, is much quicker. So I'm going to click compare to compare the files. And you can see now TVT is already completed. So it's compared this document, which has multiple language types in here, and is now just showing any differences, any deviations between the original approved and the artwork or your revision. So all we need to do is move to our fourth stage now, where we have multiple options, where we can check warning settings. TVT identifies text that is possibly acceptable because it has the same meaning as in the warnings. Actually deal with our text deviations. Check any reading order. So TVT not only compares text, but it can tell you if it's been moved into a different position, which again is very crucial. Check that there haven't been any hyphenated text for justification. So has it wrapped onto a second line? Check our critical words, which is our repeated text. Check spelling, which again, I will show you in this quick demonstration, but this is an additional module. We can check any images, any barcodes, and we can check the styles of the text as well. So we're going to just dive into the text deviations. And you can see the first one, and I'm just going to zoom in here. Immediately, we've highlighted in green, again, for users' ease. We can see we have a deviation. Now we can see on the deviation string that in the original, it was 0.025%. In the artwork, this has been changed, rightly or wrongly, to 0.0025%. We can see in the deviation string here where the issue is. We can realign this to actually verify it is just the addition of the extra zero. And then the user, rather than having to read all the documents, merely has to deal with the differences that TVT has found. Now, thankfully, we've made that just as easy. All we need to do is choose from one of our four options. We can accept the difference between the two. So possibly it's an expected change. So we can accept it. Or we can mark in the copy. So we need to mark in the copy for change. Or if we own the document, we can mark in the original. Or if we're unsure, we can mark in both. And we also have a group acceptance rule as well. So if we have multiples of the same difference, we can group accept this so we can really help you speed through that document comparison. So in this instance, 0.025 is correct. This one is incorrect. So all I need to do is mark in the copy. This creates an automated comment. 0.0025 should be 0.025 as in the original. Now, if that's not descriptive enough, you can add your own comment and lock it in. So we're going to move on to our next deviation, our next different. And again, we've got the same text, DVI, but again, the system has picked out, look, we've actually got an upper to lowercase warning here. Again, this is our product name. DVI is our product name. It should be presented this way. So this is incorrect. So again, all I do is mark for changing the original. DVI is now shown as DVI uppercase C. Our next deviation, we automatically move to before you use. And again, it's the same text, but this was all uppercase in the original, not the same in the artwork. So again, we flag this up. In this instance, we might actually say, this is absolutely acceptable. We planned for this. This is what we would do. We move on to the next deviation in our list. wait minimum 24 hours or minimum 4 hours. Again, a massive change. Again, this could affect the patient's use. Again, we're going to mark it as we see fit. Again, this time we have an insertion. DVI has been added only to the artwork. It doesn't exist here. Again, we know this is being added because it's part of the product logo. So again, we're going to accept. Again, we've got a difference here, a deviation in the text. 2 and 8 degrees rather than 28. Couldn't be any bigger. So in this instance, it's actually wrong. I'm going to mark it in the copy. Here we have a typical typo. Schlafenhase or Schlafenhase. Again, this is correct. This is incorrect. We're going to mark it for change. And as I said, TVT doesn't care the language. Here we have Cyrillics. It's been picked up that it's different. I don't need to understand or read this. I can see that there is a change from this to this. And in this instance, I would mark it in both. And I could add a comment. Please advise. And then my final one is a deletion of text. This piece of text exists here, but it's not included in our artwork. And again, in this instance, we're going to say it actually is correct. It shouldn't have been added. So again, we're just going to accept that. Now, all our marking tools also have hotkeys, so you do not have to keep going to these boxes and opening things. So our next step would be then to check our critical words. And here we've picked up 2 where we have actually repeated text, DVI, DVI. Now, this in essence is actual a false positive, but we would rather pick up a little too much than not enough and miss out where there is repeated text. If there'd been punctuation, this wouldn't have never been flagged up. So again, we can mark as acceptable and we move on. So our next step would be to do spell check. Now, as I said, this is an addition that you can add to TVT, but it's a beneficial addition. So this is automated. So the system's automatically picking up English, German, and French. So again, all we need to do, and don't worry, I'm not going to go through all the spellings in this. I'm just going to highlight some of these for you. All we do is review. Unlike other systems, we actually check both sides of the document sets for spelling. So all we have to do is review here with our suggestion against our spelling item, either accept all for grouping, or add to our customizable dictionary, or mark all items. So again, I'm going to just mark a few of these so we can see ocular sensum, DVI. Well, yeah, this is actually spelt the correct way, so we're going to accept these. You can see now within a few clicks, we've actually marked 54 instances in spelling. So you can see how quickly TVT can be used. So I'm going to quickly push through a few of these, absolutely just reviewing. Absolutely no issues. Wonderful. Here's the spelling issue. Without spelling, this wouldn't have been picked up. It's the same in both sides. A standard system wouldn't pick this up. TVT picks this up. All we need to do is mark it for change. And we move on. So everything is now marked, so we can move on. Now, as I said, I'm not going to show you all these, but I'm just going to very quickly sort of click through and just point out a few things as we go. So as you can see, as we click through, we have French. So the dictionary is changing. It's a medical dictionary involved in TVT also. And you may see now we've gone into our German text. So TVT's performing this absolutely perfectly. So again, you would never do this in a normal comparison. Absolutely not. But I have no right or wrong in this instance, which is good for me. So our final steps then would be, we can check our images. So we have our images. Now I've asked the system to automatically pick this up. We can review these as standard in TVT. We do, as I said, have the automated option which can be applied, but even in TVT as standard, we can review embedded images, and we have 4 options where we can speed this checking up with the blink mode, with the blend mode, so we can blend from the original to the artwork, the wipe mode, so we can actually wipe between these, and we have a difference window, so we can see we have an issue here. So again, we're just going to mark this as we see fit. And again, just for speed, we're quickly going to go through these so we can see again, there's been an absolute change. The bottle's changed. The arrows actually point down and upwards, and we've got a different part here. So again, I'm going to quickly mark. The eye is actually changing from left to right. This is absolutely perfect. So is this one. Here we have an item where the 3 is changing to an 8. So again, I'm going to mark these. So you can see again how quickly we can approve these logos. Now here we have a logo on its own. It doesn't exist in this side, but we can still actually say, yeah, this is what we would expect, or mark it for any change. So again, we do this. So very quickly, we've checked multiple languages, spelling, checked any embedded images. We could check barcodes as well. And our final step would be to check the actual style. So we're going to do this very simply. I'm just going to look at the attributes that the text carries. And I'm going to do a minimum font check as well. So anything that falls below 8 point will get flagged up. Again, TVT has very quickly done this. And we can see, again, just by reviewing, in the original, the text was bold, but in the artwork, it was regular. If this is an issue, we leave it marked for change. If not, we can actually uncheck this. And then there isn't a requirement for change commented. So again, we can review these very, very quickly. Any that are left with a comment would be marked up. We'll move on to the next. So we can see underlined, not underlined. And our final one. And this is a tricky one, would you believe? The N is actually in lowercase here, it's uppercase here. So of course, all these things are automatically caught by TVT. So really quickly, we've gone through absolutely everything. And the final step would be to create what we call the annotated PDF. This would be your change report. So I'm going to very quickly create this for you. I'm just going to save this here. Oh, of course, I need to replace. Yep. So as you can see now, TVT is, we've moved away from TVT. We've created a PDF. So we've got all our information, who did what, when, where, and why, and any items that have been flagged up for change and why it has been flagged for change. And again, everything is color coded for ease. So again, we did not check the barcodes. We flagged everything up. And the very final stage is we can create that all-important audit trail compliant report. And again, I'm just going to just create this for you. And of course, these can't be overwritten, so I'm just going to change the name. So you will see very quickly that TVT now has created an audit trail compliant report. Time and date stamped, user stamped, everything is there. Everything that we did in this project has been completely covered all the way through. So All that I need to do now is close or save the report, and then we move on. So hopefully you've enjoyed that. It's given you food for thought, and we're going to go back to the final stage of our presentation, and I hand you over to Katerina.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dean, and thank you for the lovely activity presentation.
Ooh.
We we did get already some comments that your presentation has been helpful. So this is really great. There was a question that was related to the languages in TVT. If you can maybe touch the point, what languages can TVT itself compare, and what languages can TVT spelling compare? Like if there is some difference.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Great question. So TVT is completely language independent itself, and actually looks at the information behind the text that we see on the screen, the Unicode information. So in essence, it is completely, it will compare any language known to man. So any European text or any right to left reading text. So your Thai, Hebrew, Arabic, and the spelling module. Yeah, we've got in there 48 dictionaries, with the medical dictionary also available to you. So we really do cover sort of all eventualities, and it's also an option to add additional dictionaries should you have that requirement.
Thank you, Dean. Okay, I did saw some additional comments that it's been really helpful, Dean. So thank you so much again.
Brilliant.
And to yeah, to conclude the session, so we have seen that labeling artwork is more than just the final step in product development. It's a reflection of everything that has been done before, the processes, attention to detail, and collaboration, and of course shared responsibility to protect people who rely on the product. And we have talked about the risk, the recalls, the delays, the compliance failures, but we have also seen opportunities that with the right systems and tools, these mistakes are certainly preventable. So thank you very much everyone for your time, and see you soon.
Brilliant. An absolute pleasure. Thank you, guys. Without you, we wouldn't be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We'll end this now.